everybody. I'm Bobby Salves.
And I'm Michael Monaco, and we're the Hazmat Guys. This is Ask the Hazmat Guys, answering your questions.
So let's take a look in the old mailbag and see what we got here. We have a question regarding O2 levels and increasing the flammability.
A question about what type of meter sensor they should put in a new meter.
We have a question about what's the difference between ionization and isotopes.
A question about propane tanks in transport.
We have a question from Richard Forte from Fairfax County, Virginia, and he says, I have a question regarding elevated O2 levels and increased flammability. While discussing flammability, the question came up as why or how does the flammable range change in an oxygen-enriched or deficient environment? We've looked up several textbooks, and while it confirms that the flammable range does in fact change, I can't seem to find an explanation of the chemistry involved. So obviously the increased oxidizer would have to displace some of the other atmospheric gases, and it may inhibit combustion such as nitrogen, but is it really that simple? So is there anything going on at a molecular level that's in play here? And more importantly, does the change in the environment also affect the catalytic beads set up in our LEL meters? Could they be inaccurate? What you're looking for is something called stoichiochemistry or stoichiometry. It is a rather long and drawn-out chemistry theory. But what I'll tell you is that it means that if the amount of the reactants are known, then the amount of the product can be calculated. And on the other hand, if one reactant is known and the quantity of the product can be determined, then the amount of the other reactants can also be calculated. It's kind of like A plus B equals C, or actually A squared plus B squared, Pythagorean theorem kind of thing. It's used to balance chemical equations, and it's used in conversions from grams to moles. It's used to balance chemical equations, and it can also be used to find the quantity of a product yielded by a reaction. Now, as far as the change in the environment of the catalytic bead in our LEL meters, I believe it will. And I'm going to find out more about that, and I think we're going to expand on that in a future episode. So I don't want to give away all the answers, but thanks for the question, Rich.
All right, this question comes from Michael, who is in the Oakland Park, Kansas Fire Department. All right, and they also are part of a regional hazmat team. And his question goes as follows. Our team is purchasing a new 6-gas with a PID. Our standard configuration has been O2, LEL, H2S, CO, and PID. We have the ability to now add toxic sensors, an additional toxic sensor. Would you consider any other sensor as a must to have on this instrument, or would you just stick with the above-mentioned configuration? We do have separate monitors for chlorine and ammonia. All right, fantastic question, Mike. And I actually wrote back to him on this one, and I wrote, oh man, I wish I could give you a good answer, but in all honesty, you have the answer in front of you. And this is what I wrote to him. Now I'm not reading what I wrote to him. This answer for all you people that are out there that are looking at different meters and new sensors, and all these meters are coming online with all these different sensor capabilities. They're adding more sensors. Things are getting smaller. Technology is becoming fantastic. Different sensor technologies out there are able to pick up different things. I want you to know that the answer to this question is right literally in front of you. And what do I mean by this? Okay, so 3 things that you want to consider when you're saying, hey, what new meter sensor should I put in here? The first is going to be your call log sheet. And what your call log sheet is going to do, it's going to tell you the types of runs that you have been going on. And I would look back on this sheet for about the past 2 years. And I would sit and I'd say, okay, what is it that we have been going to most frequently? Because what you've been doing for the past 2 years most frequently is probably what you're going to be continue to do. This is going to start to give you an idea of what chemicals your team has been dealing with. The next thing you need to do is to take a look at your area. I was going to say first due area, but for a regional response team, your regional area. And you want to sit and you want to ask yourself, what is in my jurisdiction on a regular basis? Is it industry? Is it farms? Is it cities? Is it mostly highway and commercial? What's running through it? These are the questions that you want to ask yourself because you want to get a really good sense of what is in my jurisdiction on a regular basis. So if there is going to be some kind of a major accident, is there a chemical that is in abundant supply of here in my area? And is it bad enough to warrant having a sensor that I don't already have? Third and finally, you want to go to the technicians in the team, the ones that are doing the response. And you want to turn to them and you want to say, hey, what don't you have that you wish you had over the past couple years? Think back to those runs where you were like, man, I wish I had a sensor that could give me this. I wish I had a sensor that did this. Maybe your chlorine sensors and your ammonia sensors are separate, all right? But your technicians are going, it would be really handy because we use them all the time if we could just put them on 1 meter. Or they may turn around and go, no, we don't want chlorine ammonia on a meter because that chlorine and the ammonia is going to screw up the other sensors when it comes in contact with it. So that's why we want it separate. Work with your team. Talk to your team. Find out what it is that they see that they need. I wish I could be more helpful to you, Mike, but like I said, the answer is really right in front of you. Things change so much between district to district that to be able for me in a big city to turn around and say, this is the sensor that you need, it would be extremely irresponsible of me. Great question. Keep them coming.
My next question is from Drew Fowen from Nampa, Idaho. And he asked the question, what's the difference between ions and isotopes? And that's a great question. An isotope is a variation of the neutron in the nucleus. So if we look at hydrogen, it has an atomic number of 1. So it has a nucleus with 1 proton. And because it has 1 proton, it has 1 electron in normal circumstances. But now here's the magic. About 1 in 6,000 hydrogens will have a neutron also in the middle of the nucleus. And this is an isotope. And in this case, it's deuterium. If we jam another neutron in there, it's called tritium. On the other hand, if we have an atom that is neutrally charged and we give it another charge, either negative or positive, then we have an ion. So we're changing the electrons in this case. So if we have a positively charged ion, we have a cation. And if we have a negative charged ion, we have an anion. Hope that answers it.
Okay, so this question comes from Steve, who actually is in my hometown on Long Island. And he wrote into an email asking about propane tanks that are in transport. So he had seen the large 1,500-gallon propane tanks being transported via tractor trailer, and there were multiple of them stacked up, and they had the 1075 UN label on them. And his basic question was, are these full or are they empty? If they're empty, how come they have a placard on it? Isn't that a little bit confusing? And the answer to this is, yeah, sometimes it can be confusing. Most of the time, and I'm going to really preface to say most of the time, these tanks are transported completely empty. They're not filled until they are installed in place at the facility. They need to be lifted up by the eyelets and mounted generally into some kind of a concrete, but they are empty while they're being transported. The reason that they have the 1075 sticker on them is the manufacturer puts them on before transport. It's just kind of part of what the manufacturer does to get the tank ready for the purchaser. So even though it has the sticker on it, the sticker is actually, if you want to consider it, is more on the cargo itself than on the actual truck. And I would be very surprised if anybody was required to actually placard their truck to propane while carrying empty, unused tanks. I know out by us, if they're going to take a tank from somebody's house, they are going to purge it with nitrogen, empty the tank, purge it with nitrogen, or recover the tank, purge it with nitrogen, and then they'll transport it empty. I don't know if they do that way. It's not considered a hazardous material, or if they're just rendering the tank safe for transport. But excellent question. Keep them coming. Thank you very much, Steve.
Well, that wraps up another episode of Ask the Hazmat Guys.
You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, or our YouTube channel at The Hazmat Guys.
If you'd like to send us a question for us to answer, call our comment hotline at 843-628-1484 or send us an email at feedback@thehazmatguys.com.
And remember, don't just get on the job, get into the job.